WJ tells me my hair is fluffy. What can
Right
I do?
before we come back on.
The makeup lady was coming up and he was the center back. Get back.
All right, that'll be next week's show, how to combat fluffy hair. Welcome back to Fresh Outlook. I'm TWB. We're all familiar with Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but this holiday season, it appears there's a brand new phenomenon that's been born on another day of the week. Take a look.
With Black Friday over, but the holiday season just getting into gear, the spirit of shop till you drop is in the air. But while many are searching for the best deals, others are making a statement. The holidays, they say, are supposed to be about, well, giving. Today, a new crop of activists are attempting to put a dent in the country's consumer craze culture. This week, as a counter to Black Friday and Cyber Monday, a brand new Giving Tuesday was announced, a day set aside not for shopping, but for volunteering in your local community. Could this become the new American holiday tradition?
A day to give thanks and 2 days to shop and a day to give back.
I like that. That's a nice
Yeah.
sort of timeline. But is this realistic? Is
Listen,
this the future?
It is. I love any kind of injection of consciousness in terms of how we consume. That's why I think Small Business Saturday, even though it's sponsored by American Express, it's still really,
What do you
really
mean,
important.
even though it's sponsored by
Well,
American Express?
it makes you a little bit more skeptical when corporations are involved in trying to do it. But what we need is we need people to be more conscientious about how they spend their money and what they do with their resources. And giving back is becoming more and more important. And so for Tuesday, for us to designate a day for people to think philanthropically, to think charitably is great. I don't want that to sort of, charity is never a substitute for justice and equity, but we need to have both and. So we need people to think about who they can give to and what they can give to.
James, we need
that
a
will help our
whole lot
society.
more messages than a couple of little photo ops with some little group that wants us to go out and do something, after shopping like maniacs.
You're awfully
for
cynical.
48
I don't know.
hours.
Awfully
I think we need
cynical,
a whole
this
lot
guy.
more support to get to a point where it becomes actually an organic and a spontaneous.
You got to start somewhere.
Right.
You got to start
Somebody
somewhere.
Why
who
not
did start
Tuesday?
somewhere was New York City Police Officer Lawrence DePrimo
Yes.
when he noticed the homeless man on the streets of Manhattan and he bought him a pair of boots. That picture went viral. It's taken by a woman who was visiting New York City from Arizona.
Terrific.
And he didn't think twice about it. As WJ said, he just did it. He didn't think about how much the boots cost. He didn't think about, he just saw somebody needed it and he gave it to him. Now, is that what, is the solution to homelessness?
Absolutely
no.
not.
But
Random
is it
acts
a
of
nice
kindness.
random
Are we
act
headed
of
in that
kindness?
direction?
Absolutely.
I hope
And
so.
in that
It's a good
regard,
message.
just like the guy who's giving away $100 bills to people in Staten Island who are affected by Hurricane Sandy, the Secret Santa from Missouri, the millionaire from there, he's been doing that and creating a lot of smiles. It's nice to perhaps inspire others that giving, just for the sake of giving, is okay.
Again, though,
right.
we've got to make a distinction between charity and justice. So giving the shoes to the homeless person, great charity. Giving $100 bills to the Sandy victims, great charity. But
talk
justice
about
and
starving
equality,
children.
right. I'm talking about we can end homelessness, right? We can do what we need to do from a government perspective and a private perspective in terms of helping this Hurricane Sandy victims. I don't want charity or giving in these sort of anecdotal,
Exactly.
individual situations
Yeah.
to obscure the fact that we have very real issues that we've got to address.
Systemic problems. in
And,
this
and like I
area.
said, that's why my uncle entered the Massachusetts State Senate and the Massachusetts State House of Representatives. And my mother, established the first homeless shelter for women in Boston, Rosie's Place, and ended up buying them a building instead of them renting the building after they were kicked out after a fire, because she knew that they needed to, in a systemic way, for justice' sake, not just for charity's sake, have their own place.
That's
And
Massachusetts,
though.
See, Massachusetts is always coming up with like good
Can you
sounding
let
projects.
Francesca finish?
No,
the
no,
piece,
she's
please?
always cutting in on me. I got a chance to
wait a
do
second.
that once in a while.
Wow.
Just once a
Can we
month.
just hear the
Wow.
last piece of that? 'Cause
Finish your
Thank
thought.
you so much. All I was trying to say was that here you have an example of somebody recognizing the difference between charity and justice. Happened to be my mom, but it was a good idea. She knew that there were people that already had a great system in place in terms of how they were serving the poor and the homeless women
Right.
in Boston, but they were not able to actually sustain it because they didn't own the building. Because of that, she came in with a little bit of money. They were able to buy something, and they've been able to then grow as a consequence of that because they continue to have a good system in place.
She had the eye to
the
see
key
the
question always is
sustainability.
how do you take these things to scale? So we give one homeless person a pair of shoes. I want to know how do we get that to scale? What shoe companies do we talk to?
Well,
What
maybe
are
it's
the
like
ways-
And what about that homeless
Payless.
man? Did he get motivated after getting the boots and go out and maybe get a job.
Well, you know, he could certainly
Does
listen.
that sound too hard-hearted for anybody on the panel?
Or did he sell the boots on
Excuse
eBay
me.
to make a quick buck?
He just,
and get some
according to the
beer.
officer, he just smiled and walked away. But you talk about shoes. You look at that guy Tom's that started those Tom shoes. You see a lot of people in Manhattan. He sort of took it and said, you know what? I'm traveling to all these places, and I see that people need shoes, and I'm going to do some kind of a give back. And so for every pair that you buy,
they give
you
you.
know,
Speaking
and
of-
that's one way that it's a non-governmental way.
Well, Tom's is because again, it gets closer to scale. How do you take these small little things and make them larger and make them have the kind of impact that we want them to have?
Well,
you know, a lot of times.
crowdfunding.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, this is one way of doing it. Yeah.
Yes.
Again,
Well,
anytime and crowdfunding is great because again, anytime we're being smarter and more conscientious about how we're spending our money, I think that you know, we live in consumer culture. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
The way that we address some of the issues that we have is we start to organize about how and where we're spending our money. Stop spending your money so much at Walmart. Hit some small businesses a little bit more. Crowdfunding is about identifying, you know, what businesses and what issues we would like to
I love
address
this.
and coming together through social media to address them.
Kiva.org, have you been on this?
Yeah.
I mean, changing lives through loans. What a great mantra. I love it. You can sort of pick a person that you want to
Microfinancing.
help. If a guy in Kenya needs $25 to
Right.
increase his grain production,
Yep.
you can do it. Not only that, you can track it.
Can we
There's
put
no
our show
interest
on
on the
one of
loan.
these? Maybe put our show, maybe we can
Well,
increase our salaries.
we have sponsors right now.
That's a
I-
great
I-
idea.
I think another thing.
Just make it WJ.org.
This is the
Forget
spirit
Kiva.
of giving
Yeah.
at the end of the year. Another thing for people to consider is to give instead of gifts to people like a new iPad or a stuffed animal or whatever it is that's on somebody's Christmas wish list. You can give them a llama in Peru through Heifer International so that you can feed and sustain a family of four
I
for an
wish-
extended period of
I
time.
wish more kids
for
knew about
$20,
this.
for $5, for $2. Or you could do SIVA, for example, is an organization, or UNICEF, where they do cataract eye operations for children in India, and you can give money to those organizations. And there are solid organizations that do this kind of work across the board. So when you're talking about justice and not charity, and you're talking about changing fundamentally a system, there are good places that are
And
set up.
But
microfinance-
those good
Let me
places
tell you
have
this,
always
though.
been
For some of
out
these
there, and we still haven't changed the problem from a systemic level.
The average American donor is 65 years
That's
old.
right.
Okay, so Giving Tuesday, I like. There's a hashtag in it. I mean, they're trying to get
They're
the
trying to
younger
get younger
people
people to
out
do
there,
it.
the
But
social
there's a young
movement. But
kid that
is
was
that
just featured
realistic?
on 60 Minutes, and he does this thing called We Day. I don't know if anybody saw the segment. Yeah, he's like a rock star to these kids. Okay, he went to a foreign country, saw that these kids were being, you know, in factories. They were, you know, working too much, and obviously because of a systemic situation, they weren't able to get out of it. He went there, tried to raise money. Now they have a $30 million operation annually where they are able to organize children, teenagers
again,
from all around the country and then go. It's just the idea. Again, what you're talking about is much deeper. I'm talking about raising awareness at a
Yes,
very
that
basic
we,
level
we need
with
to
young
use that
people,
to raise
with young
awareness.
people.
Yes, to raise awareness. And listen,
And
we
look at
should
that
be
young
educating
girl
young
actually
people.
raising
I don't think
awareness
young
of girls in
people care.
education, getting herself shot.
Who,
I think
Malayla
the-
Yousafzai?
I'm just saying that I hope that with these anecdotal examples that don't do more harm than good in the long run.
Sometimes we just have to keep them in perspective. If it's about raising awareness, I'm all for that. But listen, I want educational programs that teach young people the value of giving in their own communities. And that's not just giving money, it's giving your time.
What kind of
it's giving
educational
resources.
programs,
in
and
the
how do we get it
Civic
going?
education, civic education. We want to live in a civil society. Like in any kind of civic studies course, you would teach that giving is a part of your citizenship.
Yes.
Well,
duty.
I know,
Yes.
and I think you know this from Phillips Brookshouse, when the work that you do through the Harvard Center that you're affiliated with. You know, Harvard, you were not allowed to get into unless you had a demonstrated track of community service
Always.
beforehand in high school or as a young citizen. And that's just my personal example with this. It could be that the other
I
examples
wish more would jump on that
are
train.
like that
Yep.
elsewhere,
We
but you
have
have to
to.
have a demonstrated commitment to other people, whether it's that you volunteer at a nursing home, whether that, so that at a young age you have a higher consciousness of
Social
the other,
excellence.
not
Social
just your own.
excellence.
I don't mean to
Society.
interrupt you, but I think we have some more pieces we'd like to show. We had a piece on Giving Tuesday. My technology has failed me. So if we want to throw to that, let's do that. And if not, we'll continue the conversation. There we go.
Well, we all have things around our house we want to get rid of. An old jacket, a pair of pants that maybe don't fit quite right anymore. But when one Galveston woman's old pair of shoes turned into a several $1,000 mistake, the people at Goodwill stepped up to do the right thing.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
That was Richard Lopez's reaction to a very startling find. Richard is a store manager at the Goodwill on the Gulf Freeway in 528, that's just south of Houston. He was inspecting a batch of donated shoes before sending them to the sale room floor, when he noticed inside one of the shoes what looked like money stuffed inside.
When I got a closer look, there was about $33 $100 bills rolled up inside the toe portion of the shoe.
Lopez said he didn't think the person who donated the shoes meant to donate all that cash, so he set them aside and waited to see if anyone would come to claim them. And they did.
Well, she was very distraught when she came in, saying that her husband accidentally donated, all their money, and she was visibly upset, crying.
The woman said her husband donated the shoes, not knowing their life savings was stuffed inside. After confirming a few details about the shoes and the cash, they gave her the good news. Lopez said she was overjoyed when she learned her life savings was not lost forever. Lopez said the thought of pocketing the cash never entered his mind.
That could be somebody's holiday money, that could be, mortgage, so we want to make sure we do the right thing with anything we found.
For Eber News in Houston, I'm David Norris.
Thank you, David Norris. How does this happen? Money getting stuffed in shoes by mistake? I mean, I know that's not the point of the...
Like money under the mattress.
But
You've done it. You throw money in places trying to...
I mean, maybe a $5 bill in my pocket once in a while.
Yeah,
What's it really saying about society that people give back money? I mean, that's great, but if you've got a family to feed and you find some money, I mean, it's definitely going to cross your mind to keep it.
Well, yeah, that's possible, but I think that in this particular situation, the manager worked for a Goodwill store, and so he kind of has goodwill. I'd hope. He didn't work for Macy's or whatever. I mean, you'd like to.
I'd hope.
That's a good point.
But the greater question here is, I feel like this younger generation, the Facebook generation, they care about themselves, me, and giving is becoming obsolete. Thank God for these crowdfunding websites like Kiva and the stuff we've mentioned, but I just don't think kids are giving back, and I worry.
Listen, they're growing up in a world where we have permanent poverty in the United States, where there's homelessness, all the things that we talked about today. Are we modeling the kind of behavior that we want young people to have?
Right.
We want them to be less self-centered and more altruistic, but look at the world we live in. We live in a world of preemption and drone strikes. We live in a world of 23 million people impoverished. We live in a world where we have a Congress that can't pass any laws, a world where we're going to talk more about cutting Medicare and Medicaid.
We were
it's
a filibuster. Hold on. Listen,
we
would give children messages of self-sufficiency. So they go out, they learn how to make a living and take care of themselves.
We're interdependent.
And we are interdependent.
Yes.
And I think the pendulum may be swinging in one direction. It's gone too far. I think things will actually find more.
Speaking of pendulums, the pendulum has swung towards the end of the show. So with that, we have to say goodbye. I pray this week that the fiscal cliff, we will start retracting from that cliff.
Oh boy.
The climate cliff, the hunger cliff,
How about
all the
that?
stuff we've discussed.
How about that?
We'll see you guys next week. What do you say
Yes.
we do this again next week?
Yeah.
Okay, might as
Absolutely.
well. We're out of time. I want to thank, of course, my all-star panel for their fresh outlooks. James, Francesca, WJ. Remember, if you have a fresh outlook, we want to hear about it. Don't hesitate. Let us know on our Facebook page, our YouTube page, our Twitter page, at Abreu TV. I'm TWB, or that's at TW Brill. I promise I'm speaking English. We'll see you next time on Fresh Outlook. Have a good day.